right, welcome everybody back. Two Dudes Views. I'm Quentin Scott. This is Matt Layton, and this is a topic Matt and I have been talking about for weeks and months, but it's really about off-cycle elections. And so, if you don't know what an off-cycle election is, basically what it is anytime political analysts or media coverage talks about an off-cycle election, we're talking about an election that does not include a presidential primary or election or a national election. So your Senate, your House, anything like that, midterm elections. So in the scheme of things, they're saying local elections are off cycle. And those are the ones that turnout is low on. And so that's what Matt and I get fired up about is really everyone goes to vote for the president. Everyone goes to vote for their senators and representatives. No one goes out to vote for their county commissioner. No one goes out and votes for the city council. And you've heard us say for the last several weeks, be an informed voter. And so that's what we're talking about this week. It's off cycle elections. And I know Matt, he's been chomping at the bit to really talk about kind of what this is and how it really affects how we go to the ballot and how we do things. So, Matt, you want to jump in?
Sure. And we talked about this time again, right? I would say all politics are local. Probably the only politics that matter are local. And a lot of times it's these off cycle elections that are those local elections that, again, are going to have the most immediate impact on each of our day to day lives. And these are the elections that, no one shows up to, right? Well, hell, even the national elections, we have low voter turnout. But when there's not a midterm for national Senate or House, or it's not a presidential election or a presidential choice on the ballot, no, even less people show up for those. And I would argue that again, your local elections, either your local House or Senate, county commissioner, city council, school board, these are the type of elections that again impact you the most on a day-to-day basis, and they're really the elections that your voice matters the most, right? You can make an immediate impact either with your own vote, helping get out the vote, get out your buddies, go make a change in kind of that smaller local area, again, that'll have the biggest impact on your day to day life. So again, we talked about this a lot, being an informed voter. And part of that informed voter is not only who should I vote for that, follows the values and believes a lot of the same things I do, but that informed voter also knows, where does my voice carry the most weight, right? Where can I make the most impact with my choice? And a lot of times, again, these off cycle elections house a lot of these races that are the local races, again, just the closest to us.
Yeah. And, you know, CNN, Fox News, CBS, they're not going to cover your local city council election. They don't care who really is your county commissioner. Their job is to cover national elections. And
Well,
so,
hey, and I would even go as far as to say Quentin's kind of veering off in a totally different topic here, right? And it's about, what is that media organization's goal, right? And it's to make money from advertisers, to get eyeballs on their show. Guess what? Your local school board or local city council race is going to get zero eyeballs. So it's not that they don't care or they don't believe that's important. Those races just aren't going to create
right.
the eyeballs and the volume of viewership that the national races are. So again, whenever you're whenever you're watching CNN or Fox News or MSNBC, you know what? They may be saying exactly what it is that you want to hear, right? They may be speaking to the choir. You may turn into one over the other because they agree with you the most. We all need to stop and think about why it is that they're saying the exact things that we want to hear and that we agree with, and why are they saying things that make us tune in longer and every single day to watch those shows they're paid to get us to watch those shows, right?
Yeah.
We are the product there. So I mean, that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother another day. But Quentin's hitting it right on the head. What what most of the major media platforms that broadcast either online or on the broadcast networks, they're not interested in what's most important to you. They're
Yeah.
interested in what's most important to their advertisers in terms of how can we get the most people to view the content.
Yeah, and I mean, we're here in Oklahoma, and a few weeks ago we started seeing gubernatorial candidates start putting their name in the hat. A.G. Drummond did. We'll obviously see several more come out of the woodwork before the primaries hit. But when Matt put his name in the hat for city council and I put my name in the ring for school board, it wasn't in the Daily Oklahoman. It wasn't even in the Ada News. It was when we had the election because local newspaper actually does a great job of reminding people when the election is because of our election board. But yeah, but then that's the point Matt and I are trying to cover and talk about right now is you watch the news and all they talk about is federal politics. So they're not telling you to turn off the news, but telling you like what news outlets are actually bringing you into local politics and local things that you need to be worrying about. Everyone right now inauguration's over, presidential election's over, taking a deep breath, waiting for 4 more years. When honestly, there's elections that'll occur at the end of this year for our local governments and next year school boards, things like that. And that's what Matt and I's passion really is don't let off cycle or mainstream media lull you into another 2 or 4 year nap. Be involved, get into your local politics and get into your local ballot boxes and vote and get the people in that directly affect your daily life. Now, one topic too, and I don't know how Matt feels about this, but being a school board member, this directly affects me. But you have off-cycle elections and then you have off-date elections. And so we
Off
have date,
off.
yeah, we have school board elections in the state of Oklahoma are actually your primaries held in February, and then your election, if you draw an opponent, is held in April. And so what happens is those elections, and Matt can tell you, he's been here, he's voted. You go, and there may be 10 people go vote in that election. I think one year I ran for school board, and we have like 8,000 people that live in the district that our kids go to school in. 200 people voted. That's a very poor turnout for the election board to open the ballots, to have the district open and have voters come out. And so one
Hey,
thing
are you up for election this year?
I'm not, I think in 26 or 27. So we serve 5 year terms unless this goes through. So Representative Chris Banning out of Bixby has filed some legislation to change the school board date elections in Oklahoma. And Matt and I actually emailed about this and found this interesting because we didn't know this stat. As a school board member, I was actually ignorant to this. And so I should have been aware of this. But because the off date election, the school actually has to pay, or the school district has to pay the state to run the election for their school board, which in one case is kind of like that's kind of interesting. So it says
You know
under
what it is, Quentin? It's asinine. Who would have? Who would have? Again, I didn't know this, and I'm one of the biggest political geeks there are. Right? Who would have thought the money that we earmarked to public education in the state of Oklahoma, a portion of which would go to running elections? Right?
right.
How about our schools get really good and focus on teaching our kids and children not how to run an election?
Yeah.
I was actually blown away by the fact that one, school board elections are kind of just held off on their own on a different schedule, and two, they're then required to reimburse the state for running those elections.
Yeah, and so under state statute, school districts must reimburse county election boards for all costs of school board elections. In 2023, these elections cost Oklahoma school districts a combined $16.8 million of taxpayer funds. That's insane. You're talking about $16.8 million, like Matt said, that could have went back into the school.
Well,
It's
and it's efficiency, right? And it's smart with the money, right? Because again, we're running all the other elections at the same time and cadence as normal. The
right.
state and us as taxpayers are already paying for those elections. And hey, guess what? Now we're going to pay for some more elections out of what we thought was money that was going to our public education. Instead, they're spending that money on elections. It's
Yeah. And
let's just say, to me, again, I haven't studied enough to know all the pros and cons to the suggested legislation here. To me, it makes a whole lot of sense, and it's extremely smart in terms of how we spend dollars.
yeah, and Representative Banning is quoted in saying that the bill is simple. It repurposes millions of dollars for our amazing educators while providing a more accurate representation of community standards at the polling place. And so HBB 1151, what he wants to do is he wants to move the legislations not to on cycle or on to a presidential election. Those are going to happen no matter what because one of those elections falls in a presidential year. But what he wants to do is move the dates from February and April to June and November. And that's something, you may think, well, Matt and Quentin, you're changing your mind. And what we're saying is there are off cycle, and that's not a term you want to get stuck into and be aware of. But then there are elections that just cost money for no reason that can be moved into the place where let's just make it to where, like Matt said, if there's already five other elections, let's put this one where it goes. That way the schools aren't having to pay for their own election. And Matt said it earlier in the conversation we're having. Sometimes that's the only election going on. And you see the signs up and people are like, well, what are we voting for? I didn't know there even was an election. It's like, oh, it's school board. Oh, it's not that big of a deal. And they just drive right by.
Yeah, and Quentin even said it right. 200 freaking people showed up to vote, but you know what? The school's paying for a full election that has the ability to house all of the people that are eligible to come and vote. So again, when you have these off cycle elections, we always see lower voter turnout. That's just the way it is, right? But then when we start talking about, and I'm going to say more niche elections, which it isn't really, but the school board elections that we're talking about are a lot of times kind of by themselves or kind of off. They're the only races on the ballot. You can imagine even fewer people turn out for these. And again, the county and the state are turning around and charging the schools to run the elections when it would be much more efficient in terms of taxpayer dollar and voter turnout and getting the voice of the people if we had these elections more on the schedule of the other elections.
Yeah, and so he says, and this is stats that Representative Banning getting. Again, we're giving credit to Representative Banning out of Bixby. He says Union Public Schools, which is Tulsa Union, their school board. So this is just their students. In 2022-2023, Union Public School districts had 14,890 students. This is just kids. In their 2024 election, in Zone 4, only 146 registered voters voted, and Union Public Schools had to pay for that election. And
I
that's that.
wonder. I wonder how much that election cost, Rod. I wonder how much they paid per voter.
Yeah, you're curious, is it incremental? What is it? But you're paying wages for poll workers, you're paying all this kind of thing, and so that's a case of we could move that to dates we already have regularly. That way you save the school millions. Representative Banning, I feel like Representative Banning is correct. I'm a school board member and I don't care when my primary is or when my election would be. I'm going to campaign no matter what. So, I mean, whether it's February, if you give me till June, I got 6 months to campaign instead of two because I got to register as an elected official in December.
Hey, you
And
know what? If you're a sorry school board member and you're not very good, right? You may want that race to stay hidden and no one shows up except your family. That may be a con.
Yeah, you may have a problem then. Yeah, you may have actually people who you actually have to work constituents
That's right. You
to
may
be.
actually have to campaign. And again, it's kind of a joke, but also kind of true, right? If I'm running for school board and I'm the only race on the ballot, there's nothing else to get people excited and out to that, election, and I'm the incumbent, I've probably got smooth sailing because I have my folks. I've been elected before. My people are coming out to vote. It's hard for a new person to get on the ballot, challenge an incumbent and get new people out to vote. So again, I think we talked about this on a previous episode, right? It's like straight party voting versus issues voting. It's easy for me to run an election if I don't have to run on the issues. I can just run on the party or the platform or hey, I'm Matt Layton, you know me, come out and vote Tuesday. It's going to be a heck of a time, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I do want to add one thing to that legislation is right now, school board district members, we serve 5-year terms. That moves it to 4. Who knows what that means for seats or whatever. That'll be figured out in the House. But I think what Matt and I are trying to say in this kind of episode is there's a difference. Off cycle is where the mainstream media tries to tell you it's the local elections. It's all that's going on. It's not presidential and it's not federal House. It's House or Senate. That's true, but it's not off cycle for your life. It's just not a federal election year. So try to change your vernacular to every year there is an election that's very important to me. Some years I vote for the president, some years I vote for my county commissioner, some years I vote for my House and Senate representatives and governor, some years I vote for uh, corporation commission. You just need to know your elections and know that really politics, I think Matt said earlier, there's never an off cycle for politics and elections. It's
Yeah, hey,
always on.
democracy and politics is a full contact sport, I like to say, and it happens every single day. It doesn't happen every 4 years, it doesn't happen once every 2 years. It happens every day, whether you're involved or not, right? And if you're not involved and paying attention on a day to day basis, guess what? Someone is, and they're probably making decisions that aren't in your best interest. So it it's only in each of all of our best interests to pay attention and participate on a day-to-day basis because again, if you're not, someone is, and they probably don't have your best interest at heart.
Yeah. Well, Matt, that's all I had this week. Anything you want to add?
Nope, that's it.
All right. We all take it easy.